So the material that we covered in the last section dealt with factoring by removing common factors and by looking for special factor forms. Today we're going to finish up the other two types of factoring that you're going to go through. Right? Now the first one that we're going to talk about is factor by grouping. Right, when you proceed to factor by grouping, if you have two terms in an expression, you'll probably look to remove common factors, and then the only special factor forms that involve two terms are the difference of squares or the sum and difference of cubes. If you have three terms, again, you remove any common factors first, and then the special factor form for three terms is the perfect square trinomial form, so you're looking for binomial square factors. And then when you get to four terms, that's when you use factor by grouping. Okay, so if you have four terms, you're likely going to, again, remove any common factors if you can, and then look to see if you can factor by grouping. So I'm going to go through an example of this and illustrate the steps that would be used in this type of problem. Okay, so if you were asked to factor this expression here, okay, always look to remove common factors first, and then notice you have four terms here. So your first step in factor by grouping is that you're going to group each pair of terms. Okay, so we're going to group the first pair of terms and the second pair of terms. Now you can physically write it out like I will anytime I do this, or you can just kind of mentally perform this step. Because once you group these terms, what you're then going to do is you're going to remove common factors from that group by itself. So remove any common factors. From each individual group. Okay, so if you look at this first pair of terms in our example, what common factors can we remove from those two terms? Numerically, we can remove a 3, and then the variable we can remove x to the lowest power squared. Okay, now, whatever is left after we remove this, so it's just like what we did with the removing common factors. Whatever's left still has to have the exact same form as the original. So it's one group minus another. So let's see what's left when we take out a 3x squared. So we took out the 3 and one or two of the x's, so we're left with what? X. And then in the second term, we took out a 3 and both x's, we're left with a -2. So here's what's left in that first group. So that's the first part of step 2. We're going to continue step 2 with the other pair of terms. So here, when we look at this second pair of terms, what common factor can we remove? And whatever sign you take, or whatever sign is located between the second and third term, that's always coming out. So plus 5, and then whatever's left inside has to have the same form. So it's one group minus another. When we take a 5 out of the first term, we're left with, and out of the second term, we're left with. And now, if you've done this right, you should get a repeated factor. In this case, you can see our repeated factor is x minus 2. Right? And so your third step in factor by grouping is to take out that common factor. Okay, so we have these two groups here. In these two groups of factors, we have a set of common factors, so we're going to take out that common factor. Okay, and what remains has to have the same form as the original. So again, the original was two groups of factors separated by a plus. So when we take out our common factor of x minus 2, we still need one group plus another. Okay, so we take out this x minus 2, we're left with a 3x squared. We take out this x minus 2, we're left with plus 5. And so that winds up giving you your completely factored form, okay, by grouping.